when we look back at what we've talked about so far, and we look at something like measurable, one of the first things that someone might do if they're looking at their digital marketing is that they might set up a Google Analytics account, because then they can see where their traffic is coming from. That's measurable. When you create something that's shareable, that means other people can share it, which means that you get more links to your site. To get something that's shareable, is often the best way to do that is to create compelling content. And there are lots of people who'll tell you 1,000 things that you can do. I think I was speaking to an SEO consultant that told me that there was 108 things that I needed to do. We found out that there may be 4 or 5. But the overriding element is creating content that is compelling to your target market. Now there's someone in this room right now that's saying, yeah, but I work for a sandpaper manufacturing company. Well, there is still compelling content for your audience. Creating the compelling content. What then happens is other people link to you. How does Google decide whether to rank you high in its search engines? Well, Google looks at your site and it judges you by how many organisations are linking to you. The more organisations that are linking to you, the better Google believes your content must be. Because a lot of other people think it's really great. So here we are, we have a measurable scenario which requires that your content is shareable, compelling, so that you can get more links, so that you can then become more findable. I said at the beginning of the evening, it's hard to get one right unless you get the other 3 right. But you can't do any of it unless it's manageable. Because a lot of this could sound very, very overwhelming. Manageable. Nick, I know you spend a lot of time coaching clients on building a culture to manage this sort of thing. What do you think is the must-have advice for someone wanting to manage their digital marketing?
My best tip is write a list from 1 to 10 of the 10 different activities you can do, cross off the bottom 9 and just do the first one until it's working. By far the biggest thing that kills teams and companies is just trying to do too much. You just spread yourself thin, you do it half-assed, and you just don't do a good job. So there are some things you can start and then you can move to a maintenance mode. I think SEO is like that. You've always got to be working on it, but a lot of work up front and you can get it right. Start a community, put some really hard effort into it for 3 months and then move it to maintenance. You've always got to be working on it. But don't try to do too much. That's the biggest thing from a manageability point of view, kills teams.
Anyone like to add to that?
I think, and this might get me into trouble, but I've come across a lot of companies who just want an agency to handle everything for them. You know, you go in, you know, you've got your little social media coordinator who becomes the Twitter voice for a company that they're actually not invested in. They just
the 21-year-old Gen Y.
Exactly. The one who knows how to use Twitter.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a person who isn't emotionally invested or even really financially invested in your company. It's someone that's probably handling 6 or 7 other projects at a time. And I think that's where a lot of the loss of control fear comes from a client's point of view. But a lot of them just expect an agency to take over this activity and to keep doing it for, you know, an extended period of time or an indefinite period of time. And really what an agency's role in setting up social media activity, and this is the part that's going to get me into trouble, is an agency's job should be to set it up and educate a company on how to use their social media networks and platforms, and then have the end goal be that company taking that activity in-house.
Here. We've pretty much run out of time, but I'll just introduce James Burrowes here. And the reason why is because he'll be participating in a workshop that we're holding on Thursday, if anyone wants to spend half a day getting into this in amazing amount of detail. But James was the person who said to me when I first talked about manageable, gave me 3 words, and I hope I remember. I think the first one was listen, the second one was allocate responsibilities, and then the third was put in processes. So firstly, you must listen, because there's no point going out there like your Facebook friends and not listening. Second is allocating responsibility. Why? Because the CEO should be the person talking through the blog and not the 21-year-old temp who knows how to use Twitter or whatever it is. Process. Well, a lot of these systems can, over time, once you've gone through one at a time, can be process-driven. So at that point, and I do remember in the early days of Anthill where someone said you need to talk to people when they talk about you on blogs, James, that was a terrifying proposition. So I set up an hour once a week to use a service called News, where I'd see if anyone was talking about me, and if they were talking about me, I'd jump on that blog and I'd talk to them back. They were alarmed and overwhelmed, and generally very grateful that the editor of a magazine that they'd largely been criticising in some fashion would suddenly pop up and have a polite chat with them. So on that note of shareable, measurable, shareable, findable, manageable, why don't we open up to some questions? And I'd like to go to this group because I'm feeling really guilty because it's almost like my back's been to you the entire time. But the camera's over there and I look terrible from the side. Would any of you have a question? Maybe I'll offer a prize of some sort. I didn't even need to offer a prize, I was thinking about a prize.
You're talking about advertising in social media. I guess my question is, should we? Or should we more communicate in social media and leave advertising to traditional channels, if you wish, like your banner ads and what have you, and rather just focus on social media being where the communication takes place between the consumer and the company or the business?
Yes. Next question.
Do I get my prize now?
What's the prize? I think the DVD, I don't know what it is yet. There's a great video, this DVD called The Man Who Sold the World, and it's a chap who built the global skateboarding industry, full of colourful language and all sorts of wonderful things, so I'll send you that.
You know, I think if you're going to advertise on Facebook, you need some really clear goals, whether your goal is to get fans for your Facebook page. I'm more inclined to use really targeted smaller ads down the side that only get served to people who would be interested in your product, who can then either become a fan of you on Facebook or get pointed back to your website to buy, you know, those. You wouldn't get them because you don't have any hair, but I get served these inserts that you can put in your hair and you can create beautiful Hollywood hair.
Facebook thinks that I need Weight Watchers and I belong to the Liberal Party.
Yeah. So, I mean, those sort of ads basically get served to people based on profile data that they put in. So that opens up the whole can of worms about how much information you share about yourself online, which I think is a completely different panel.
Interestingly,
yes.
Well, we run ads for this event on
Yes.
Facebook, and we used a series of photos of our speakers to run those different ads because we wanted to see which person's head would generate the most click-throughs. Ross, baby. The people on Facebook love you.
Yeah. So I mean, it really depends on what your goals are, and if you have very specific goals for those ads, I'd say use them. Cost per click on Facebook doesn't cost very much. I just ran a really successful, awesome campaign for Javiana's Thumb Challenge on Facebook, which we had 5,000 participants and 7,000 fans on Facebook. So and that was over a 6-week period, but they were all very engaged and basically in love with the product. So
she's talking about the things you wear on your foot.
yeah. Did you see on Australia Day all of the beaches that had the giant inflatable thongs?
I was working
Floating. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you had a question.
So it was just a comment on that. It sounds crazy that you can go to Facebook and join all the groups where your people are and they're talking and just talk to them, or you pay the money to have an ad on there. I've never seen a successful Facebook campaign. We don't run a lot, but we just haven't find it works. Just because people aren't there to shop and they're out there to interact with new things. So potentially, if you offer them a new thing to play with potentially, but it just doesn't seem like the next step from Facebook is something commercial or useful. But depends on the situation.
We spent $30 and sold 2 $45 tickets. Not what you call overwhelming.
It's $15.
We're messing around.